So, any more questions?
Do you believe that we're going to be redeemed on Pesach? Or
There's always possibilities. There's always possibilities. There's sometimes are more possible than others. Some are less possible than others. But there's no confirmation of a specific date.
I was reading, it says in mine was that we're going to be redeemed on Pesach.
It's a possibility. It's not a confirmation. It's not the only chance. Meaning it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be the next day, it could be Pesach. There's more likelihood that it's Pesach than tomorrow, but it doesn't mean it's only going to be on Pesach. No. There's many times during the year, but a half a dozen times or more during the year that are more likely than the rest of the times, but even those times are not 100%. Next. Yeah.
You said if we reach 50 flow of Tumah,
Ken. No tshuva from there.
no, I understand that, but I think we already surpassed that.
Oh, well, Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that we're going to reach the 50th level of Tumah before Mashiach arrived, which is even worse than where we were before Mitzrayim was over, before Hashem took us out of Egypt. My Rav and I debate all the time about if we got there. And we always say, oh, I think today we got there because we hear about another horrible event. But the problem is that every other day, something worse happens. So oh, today we got there. And every day something worse happens, and it keeps getting worse and worse. So who knows? Who knows where it is and how bad it's going to get before Mashiach comes? All I know is that, unlike what most people like to think, which is that they're excited to see Mashiach, the reality is no one is safe. No one should be confident that they're going to be saved by Mashiach. Like, the Mashiach should not be what like people teach. A lot of people teach, oh, Mashiach, I can't wait for him to come. I'm scared to death. And anyone that I know that's actually really righteous is scared to death about Mashiach. And the reason why is you don't know what makes you think you're going to make it. Why? Because you keep Shabbat? So what? Monkey keeps Shabbat too. You ever see a monkey drive on Shabbat? What makes you think you have to seriously do tshuva? Like are you really putting everything out on the field? Are you really putting everything out? Are you really doing everything? If you're really doing everything, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. But if you're like one of these half 50-50, 50% of your life you're in a secular world, 50% of your life you're religious, you should pray he doesn't come. So it's Mashiach is not so simple. That's also the reason why I don't think people should necessarily focus so much on Mashiach. They should focus on tshuva. That's why also the Rambam says that talking about what's going to happen after the Mashiach comes is a complete waste of time, because it doesn't help somebody get Yirat Shamayim or Avat Hashem. It doesn't help them do anything. It doesn't help them do. Why? Only thing that's going to help them is do tshuva. That's the only thing a person should be focused on. Nothing about what happens in the next world. Nothing about if you're going to have these Kabbalah things. Nothing about the what's going to happen if we're going to give birth or not, or if we're going to eat man, or none of that stuff. The only thing a person should focus on is doing tshuva. Doing tshuva means working on doing the mitzvot, working on developing your character trait, working on becoming more modest, working on getting closer to Hashem, working on staying away from Reshaim, working on fixing yourself. So, this is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. There's no time to think about Mashiach or anything like that. There's a lot of work. Doing tshuva is hard work, because the more serious you are about tshuva, the more the Satan is going to interfere. If your tshuva is easy, that means you're not doing tshuva. Just to let you know, if your tshuva is easy, if you're like coasting, and you're like enjoying yourself and everything is fine, you're not doing tshuva. Just so you know. Satan just gave up on you. He's like, no, he's already doing the work for me. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even work. He works for me. He thinks he's doing tshuva. He doesn't even realize he's working for me right now. He's creating demons every 5 seconds. He thinks he's creating angels. If your tshuva is easy, that means it's not tshuva. You just don't realize it. You've become so close and so indebted into the tumah, you've become part of it. Even if you wearing a kippah, you have a beard, or you have a kisui rosh. My wife, Baruch Hashem, I didn't see it, Baruch Hashem, this is one of the things I thank Hashem for. My wife, the other day, she told me that we have a neighbor, apparently, somewhere in the neighborhood. She has a kisui rosh, Baruch Hashem, kisui rosh, everything's good, the scarf, everything is good, but she has a mini skirt too. Kisui rosh and a mini skirt. And her husband, he goes to Beit Knesset on Shabbat, he has a kippah on, but he rides a bicycle on Shabbat. I don't know who taught these people. I don't know who told them such things are allowed. But it's a confused people. It's confused. People think that Kisuga is style. So,
What if you have a room? You're allowed to, right?
allowed to do what?
Go with the
Bicycle? No, bicycle not allowed to ride on Shabbat regardless, even inside a house, because
What about the little
kids... No, a bicycle is not is forbidden on Shabbat for the purpose of not necessarily the riding of the bicycle itself, but rather because the bicycle has a chain. And if the chain falls, then you're going to fix it. And fixing it is makebi patish. You're completing a tool, you're fixing something, and that's forbidden. So the Chachamim in the Gemara said that just in case the chain falls, you're already not allowed to ride the bike. Even if you say, no, I'm not going to fix the chain. Doesn't make a difference. They already made it forbidden. So you're not allowed to ride a bicycle on Shabbat, whether you're a child or you're an adult, not allowed. But there's somebody that's in my neighborhood. I can't wait to see the guy because I have to tell him, I have to stop him and tell him this, that apparently he rides a bicycle to Bet Knesset every Shabbat. I saw him one time, I just didn't know he was religious until he passed me already because I saw the kippah. But he already passed me, it was on a chag. And he's riding on a bicycle. I thought it was just, I didn't know he was Jewish, Bichlal. I saw him and his two kids, they're on bicycle, on a chag. I said, okay, he's secular, what can I do? Miskin. Well, he's not Jewish. I don't know if he's Jewish, not Jewish. I don't know. After he passed, I saw a little kippah. Can't stop the guy, what am I going to do? Miskin. But that's the thing, Rabotai, tshuva is difficult. Tshuva is good for you, but it's difficult. If your tshuva is easy, that means it's not tshuva. It's a lot of tests, a lot of ups and downs. But if you're doing it right, the difficulty itself gives you pleasure. Why? Because you overcome it. You overcome the difficulty. It was hard for me to study, but I ended up getting an hour in there. It was hard. I got an hour. It was hard for me to go pray, but I got there. See, I prayed, Shachrit, after. Waking up in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, Mamash kaparat avonot. You say, I'd rather go to Gehenom than wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go pray. I'd rather go to Gehenom already. After prayer, you went there, you prayed, you got to the Beit Knesset, you prayed, you feel like $1 million. You feel at least $1 million. Even though you did it yesterday and the day before, every time you finish going to the Beit Knesset, you finish, you feel like $1 million. Why? It's like, wow, you know what? Every day it's $1 million.
I heard that you said that if you're doing Teshuva, it's easy for you. You're not really doing it the right way. But isn't for the tzaddikim? Isn't doing it very? Easy for them?
No, it's not easy for anybody. Not easy for anybody. It's not necessarily that it's supposed to be a nightmare or it's supposed to be so difficult that it's horrible. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that to get closer to Hashem is like perfecting a diamond. Perfecting a diamond, if you ever saw like a diamond, before it becomes a diamond that you put on a ring or on a chain or something, and when it's a rough stone, it's actually kind of ugly. It looks like just a piece of glass. Now to make it into the precious diamond that it is, that they sell for tons of money on 47th Street and different markets, they have to cut it and shape it and beat it up and cut it again and beat it up. There's a lot of stuff to make a diamond. Same thing with your neshama. In the beginning, you're taking on small things. So you took on the big mitzvah of Shabbat, and you took on the big mitzvah of kosher, and you took on a few small things, like you'll come to a shiur once a week, or you'll listen to something once a week. A few big things and a couple of small things. In the beginning, you coast with that. But to do tshuva, that's not enough. Why? Then you start learning in a shiur. What does shiur say? Shiur says you have to watch your brit. Watching a brit, Shem Elachem, how difficult it is in the beginning. It's very difficult. Even in the end, it's difficult. Then you learn this shiur, you have to watch your eyes too, because the only way you can watch your brit is if you watch your eyes. If you don't watch your eyes, your brit is Shem Elachem, what's going to happen to it? Whether you like it or you don't like it. So now you have to watch your eyes. What does it mean? That's a lifestyle. Watching your eyes is not, it's very easy to be religious at home, where there's nobody next to you. But if you're out in the world, you go to work, you go to the market, you're out in the world, it's hard. Why? Especially here, nobody wears clothes. So what happens? You go outside, you have to look on the floor the whole time. You feel like this. Everybody thinks you're looking for something. You lost something, sir? You lost something? No, don't look at me. I'm over here. You have to look on the floor all the time. Why? Because she's naked, everybody's naked. So you can't look anywhere. It's hard. So you learn in this shiur that there's other things more than just Shabbat. More than just eating kosher. So now, the tshuva becomes a little more difficult. But now you become better at it. So now you have to say, okay, so what now? Oh, 15 minutes a day, learning is not enough. I have to learn an hour. So now, to go from 15 minutes to an hour is not so simple. Why? Okay, you do it once a week, an hour is not a big deal. But now every day an hour. Okay, that's more difficult. And so on and so forth. Then you learn, oh wait, I can't only just be religious in my heart, I have to be religious in my pocket too. So that means that every dollar that I get, I have to give 10 cents. I have to give 10 cents, minimum. I get 100,000, I give 10,000. $1 million, I gotta give 100,000. I have to. It's not like, oh, I should, I'm really nice if I do it. I have to. If you're not religious in your pocket, you're not religious in your heart either. You're half religious, like 50-50. Like, you're okay. Why? Gemara Masechet Shabbat says, what are they going to ask a person when he gets to Shemayim? First question. Did you conduct your business with emunah? What does it mean you conduct your business with emunah? Did you have emunah that Hashem is giving you the money? Or you thought you made it? What, you think they didn't know? You think they don't know in Shemayim? And I tell you, look at the bank account. We gave you 10,000 every month. What'd you give? Oh, what, you gave $500 to the rabbi? Oh, chazak u'baruch, once a year. That's not 10%, $500. That's not 10%. No, but look, I donated one time last year, 20,000. Okay, that was last year. What about this year? No, but look, 20 years ago, I donated a Sefer Torah. Okay, good, that was 20 years ago. You got the mitzvah 20 years ago. What about now? Everybody likes to talk about the things they used to do. People always tell me, you know how much I used to give? You know how much I used to give? You know how much money I used to give when I had, how come Hashem took it if I used to give? Because you used to give, that's why he took it. You used to give. When you give now, he'll give it more. No, why didn't he give me more and then I'll give again? Hashem doesn't negotiate that way. So, when you're religious in your pocket, you're religious in your heart. When you're religious in your heart, but not your pocket, you're half religious. When you're religious only in your pocket and your heart, half religious. And all of it becomes more and more difficult because you realize that Teshuva is not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 mitzvot. It's 620. And every single one of them that's relevant to you, you have to do.
613?
620. 613 from the Torah, 7 from the rabbis. So that's 620. The 7 from the rabbis, like Purim. We're going to have Purim in a couple of weeks. That's the rabbis. Chanukah, you like Chanukah? That's the rabbis. The brachot before you eat, that's the rabbis. And so on and so forth. The 7 mitzvot from the rabbis. Iruv, that's from the rabbis. So the point is, Abotai, is that tshuva is a never-ending thing. It's not a one-time thing, I did tshuva. Tshuva means you're constantly climbing the mountain. There's no coasting. If you're coasting, you're not doing tshuva. But there is a pleasure every time you get another step. Why? It was hard to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. In the beginning, when it was 6 o'clock, it was 5:59, he said, I'd rather go to Gehenom. At 5:59, he said, I'd rather go to Gehenom. But at 7, when you finished the prayer, he said, you know what, Baruch Hashem, I went to pray. You said, you know what, I'd rather go to Gehenom than give the guy $10,000 ma'aser. I'd rather go to Gehenom, give me the $10,000. I'd rather go to Gehenom. But after you gave the 10,000 and you realized that nothing really changed in your life, and now you actually feel some type of spiritual pleasure as a result of money, which you can never get from buying watches and rings and houses and anything. You never get any spiritual pleasure from spending money. But you did get spiritual pleasure from donating money for Sefer Torah, or for Gemara, or for Kiruv, or for Talmidei Chachamim, or something like that. But only for Sefer Torah, by the way, only if they need it. Not if they already have 7 and you just want your name on another one. If they have a Sefer Torah, it's not a mitzvah b'chal. So, the point being, Abotai, is that tshuva continues and grows. And it's more difficult and more difficult. Why is it more difficult and more difficult? Because the higher you get on the mountain, the more difficult it is to get to the next level. The difficulty grows. But the pleasure grows too. And that's why the tzaddikim say that at the end, when the Mashiach arrives, both the Reshaim and the tzaddikim are going to see something. What are they going to see? They're both going to see something and cry. The tzaddikim are going to see a mountain and they're going to cry. The Reshaim are going to see a little tiny hill and they're going to cry. What is this analogy representing? The tzaddikim are going to see all of the kaparat avonot they overcame. All of the obstacles they overcame. It's the size of a mountain. And they're going to cry in celebration. Look how much I've achieved. Look at the mountain that I climbed 70, 80 years. Baruch Hashem, look how much I didn't even know I did that much. Wow! And they cry in celebration. They actually made it to the top. And then the Reshaim, they're going to have a little tiny hill, and they're going to cry too. Why? Hashem is going to tell them, Reshaim, even one mitzvah you weren't willing to do, even one little obstacle, as soon as you lost a little bit of money, you left me. As soon as your wife left, as soon as this, as soon as your husband, as soon as one test, one tiny little thing I gave you, you left me. Look, if you would have just passed that test, you would have got to the same place as tzaddikim. So they're going to cry also. Why? They had a small test, tzaddikim had big test. Tzaddikim passed, Reshaim didn't pass. Why? Tzaddikim overcame, Reshaim had excuses. Had excuses. Train's coming, not that much time, not much space left. Ken. It's an analogy. It's an analogy. It's like, it's not actual real event. It's like, figuratively speaking.
As says that Hashem prepares the
Steps of man.
He prepares the cure for the tragedy, right?
Ken.
It says only true about the Jews. For the Goyim, the problem comes first, and then figure out what to do with them. My question is, that's in maybe not the step. My question is then, we know that Hashem created Teshuva before he created the world, and Teshuva applies to everybody.
Ken.
So it seems to be there is a contradiction here. Is it necessarily a situation when you're looking at nations, or and it's different individually, or?
Ken. So nation as a whole and individual as independent is very, very different. Yeah, of course. The nations, when Hashem gave the Torah to Am Yisrael, before that, he offered it to all of the nations, the Gemara says, and they said no. Now, in reality, he never really offered it to them. In reality, the Gemara says, he never really offered it to them. But, so what does it mean? So how come he didn't give it to them? Because they had a midah, they each one of them showed their behavior in this world as a character trait for the nation as a whole, that contradicted the Torah. So, for example, Ishmael believed that they were allowed to steal. They're allowed to steal. It was okay among them to steal. This contradicts the Torah. Edom believed that it's okay to murder. You don't like him, he doesn't like you, kill him. Mobsters. These things, these types of character traits within the nation as a whole contradicted the Torah. It says this, the Torah and them cannot unite. But it does say in the same Gemara that he did promise the righteous among those people, the righteous among those nations, that he will reincarnate them later on and give them an opportunity to convert. Reincarnate them in a body and in a life that will have an unusual attraction to Judaism. So, for example, sometimes you'll see somebody, just like the Torah, even though he was born into a secular family or religious Catholic family or Christian or whatever other religion. For some reason, he loves Judaism. Loves it, he's willing to do everything for it, he's willing to give up everything for it. It's not chance. Hashem decreed it so. For him specifically, for her specifically. Sometimes you'll see somebody marry a specific person, and initially it's wrong. She's Jewish, he's not Jewish, he's Jewish, she's not Jewish, it's wrong. But Hashem decreed it that way. Why? This is how I'm going to get him to convert. This is how I'm going to get her to convert, by connecting them to a Jew. So sometimes a person will have an unusual individual circumstance. But as a nation is a nation. Nation is a larger scale. So that's very different.
You said the sentence of, you said that Ishmael, they couldn't accept the commandment not to steal. Isn't it funny that in today's day, they'll actually cut your hand off for stealing?
Yeah, the same people that are cutting their hands for stealing are the biggest thieves, though. Like, for example, the leading families of the Arab world, whether it's the Mubarak from Egypt, or the Saudi family in Saudi Arabia, or it's Yasser Arafat, Imach Shemo v'Zichro, all of them that would cut the hands of the people that stole. They themselves stole the most amount of money in history from their own people. These families stole hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars from their own people. For example, Yasser Arafat, after he died, he discovered an estate worth billions of dollars in his name. even though his people didn't have anything. They didn't have diapers. If Israel didn't give them diapers, they didn't have diapers. If Israel didn't give them water, they didn't have water. He would steal everything. So the same people that are practicing the law are contradicting the law. So they're not practicing it because they believe in the law. They practice it because they just like to torture people, because they're mean. Yeah.
Will Yaakov ever reconcile with Edom?
I mean, as far as what? Becoming Esav and Yaakov becoming one, meaning? Like becoming friends?
But, recognizing their relationship as brothers.
Well, Esav, if you're talking about specifically Esav himself, Esav is lost his share of the world to come. There's a verse in the Torah that says, Et Esav saneti, I hated Esav. And the reason why is because Esav knew the truth and chose not to practice it. He knew the Torah. His father was a big rabbi. His grandfather was a big rabbi. His brother was a rabbi. Everybody was tzaddikim. And he knew the truth, but he still chose otherwise. So Hashem says, you knew it and you still practice otherwise, I hate you. So there's actually a verse, about Esav in the Torah. It says that he hated Esav. And Esav, you would think, would get a little better treatment. But in reality, the fact that he knew and still practiced otherwise made Hashem despise him even more than Paro and Nebuchadnezzar or many of the other wicked people before. And the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin says that Esav has no share of the world to come. So there is no chance for him to reconcile himself. He lost it. He lost it because of his behavior in this world. But his descendants, on the other hand, do have a chance. There are many people that come from Edom that are righteous converts. Many of them that have come in the past, many of them that will come in the future. For example, there was a person by the name of Antoninus. Antoninus was one of the head people in Rome, and he became the chavuta, the study partner of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, and eventually converted to Judaism and became one of the most important Jews that lived, to such an extent they mention him by name in the Gemara. And some of the laws are made because of his words. Some of the laws in the Torah are made because of his words.
But will the descendants reconcile?
The descendants of Antoninus?
No, of Esav and...
Some yes, some no. Some yes, some will become righteous, and some will become Amalek. Some will become worse. Because some of the descendants of Esav are Amalek, which is the worst of them. And some of them are the righteous among the nations, which we call Chazdei Umot Olam. At the end of times, before the Mashiach comes, the prophets say that 2/3 of the world will die immediately, and then 1/3, some will survive out of that third, and some will not survive. So obviously, many of that third, whatever is left of it, are going to be non-Jews. Many of them are going to be non-Jews because there's only a third of, let's say, we have 8 billion in the world. Okay, so you're talking about 2.5 billion will survive, let's say. Whatever ends up surviving out of the 2.5 billion, even if it's 1 billion, still, that's 99% is going to be non-Jews. So that means there's going to be a lot of righteous non-Jews. A lot of righteous non-Jews. In comparison to the larger number, obviously very small, 10%. But still going to be a large number. So those that choose to follow the Torah because Hashem gave it are considered the righteous among the nations and will become the students of the righteous Jews. Those that choose to either go against the Torah or do things that they feel like it and completely ignore the Torah will be part of the people that will be destroyed.
Isn't that a little bit depressing to see 2/3 of the world get wiped out?
Is it depressing?
Yeah.
I don't worry about things like that. What do you mean it's depressing? It's not my world. It's not for me to decide. If it was my world, then, I'm a human. But I don't look at things that way. I look at things, I'm trying to survive. I'm trying to help you survive. I'm trying to help everybody else survive. Trust me when I tell you, when you know what happens on the other side of the world, you don't really worry about 2.5 billion people surviving or 8 billion. All you worry about is surviving and try to help anybody else you can survive. The more you learn, the more you care about reality. You don't worry about the political correct version of everything, of everybody should be nice, and everybody should be meritorious, and everybody should celebrate. Because in reality, most people are not so nice. Most people do not deserve to survive. That's a reality. That's the most politically incorrect statement you could find, but that's a reality. Most people are enemies of Hashem. Most people are enemies of the Torah. And they, according to the Torah, do not deserve to survive. That's a reality. So, is it depressing? No, it's a reality. Is it depressing that people are wicked? No, it's a reality. Would you like everybody to be righteous? Sure. That's not this world, though. Then there's no purpose of this world. It's Gan Eden.
Yeah, but so you're saying we need these people, we need these wicked people to exist?
We don't need it. We need to do tshuva. That's the only thing we need is new to tshuva. All those other things that are outside factors, whether it's will they do tshuva, what happened in the past, what's all of those other things, they're just distractions. The only thing that a person needs to concern themselves with is doing tshuva themselves, fixing themselves. Once you fix yourself, once I fix myself, then we can help others fix themselves. Once we help others fix themselves, then we just saved another person, and another person, another person, another person. And just like the statistics go, with 100, after 4 generations becomes 3,400, it could be 100 turns into 1,000,000. I mean, listen, if you would have told me 6, 7 years ago that fast forward 6, 7 years, I'm going to be a kiruv rabbi that gets people to do tshuva on a regular basis, I would have told you probably ate some mushrooms mixed with some ecstasy. Why? It's the furthest thing from my truth at that time. Furthest thing from my truth at that time. I told you, listen, alvai I'll do tshuva bichlal. Alvai I'll even keep Shabbat. I never had anything against the religion. I said, if I keep Shabbat, that's already a miracle. If I tell somebody to keep Shabbat, that's 2 miracles. Wow! I know how to say things from the Torah. I know how to get people to do tshuva. I actually have a kiruv organization, Baruch Hashem, website, people doing tshuva on a daily basis, changing their lives. I mean, in your wildest dreams, or my wildest dreams, this couldn't be a possibility. So that's the thing. I don't worry about such things as far as what's going to happen. Is it depressing? Is it not depressing? Why? Because Hashem already showed me way too much to realize at this point, I'm just a little token, a little tiny little pawn. I do my job, Hashem makes the rest of the work. I do whatever I do. I go open my books, I study, I read, I pray. He does the rest. He does the rest. That's it. It's not there's nothing else. I'm just a pawn. I don't worry about anything else. I don't worry about the 8 billion people or 8 million people or the next 8 minutes. All I worry about is what I'm saying true. Is it true? Good. If it's not true, retire. Go back to Wall Street. That's it. That's really what it comes down to. So it's not an easy life. It's also not an easy reality because you're constantly the topic of conversation because everyone else is lying and you're saying the truth, which makes it seem weird. Why? Why? Is everybody going to go to Gehenna except you? People constantly tell, everybody's going to go to Gehenna except you. You're the only righteous one? No, I'm not the only righteous one. I'm the one that's telling you. I don't know, somebody else is also doing it. I'm not the only one. Just somebody else doing it. So that's the thing. It's you have to constantly fight against the shekel.
It's like when Abraham everybody was going to take it.
Alvai, I'll be the dust that Abraham stepped on one time in the desert. Alvai, I'll be one time a desert that he just stepped on it one time. Not even a whole life. Just one time he stepped on it. I'll be that. I'll be fine. Yeah.
Why do we need 2 parshas explaining in detail like the Mishnah, the general clothing?
You don't need 2 parashas. It's not the parashas were divided among the Chachamim later on. It wasn't necessarily originally done that way. The parashot.
Why do you need that all in Torah?
Why do you need the parashot to? What do you mean? Why do you need to? I don't understand. Because we need to know. We needed to know how to create the tools for the Beit HaMikdash, the one in the past and the one in the future. There's also many secrets in the parasha that talk about prophecy of the end of the world. There's also different things that we learn within the parasha. It's not just the pshat that we learn from the parasha. For example, the Arizal said that the most amount of secrets that he actually found in some part of his life, I don't know if it was ever or early part, I'm not really sure the timing, but he said the most amount of secrets that he found, Kabbalistic secrets, were from the section of the parasha that discussed just names, like the lineage of Cain. At the end of that parashat Bereshit, just talks about the lineage. Cain married this one, his son married that one started married that one, and it's a bunch of things that you think are just useless. Like, what do I care who Cain married? Especially since him and all of his descendants died 7 generations later. Like, they all died. We're not coming from Cain. No one here is from Cain. So why do I care about Cain? He says, the most amount of secrets that I found was from there. Why? Because Torah is dynamic. It's not just the pshat. There's different aspects of the Torah, different secrets within the Torah. So the Mishkan, pshat, we need to know how to do it because we needed to do it for the Bet HaMikdash that happened later on, and the Mikdash that we'll use later on even, the third Bet HaMikdash, B'ezrat Hashem. But even more so, there are secrets within the secret. So it's not just the pshat itself. It's not just the basic meaning. There's much, much deeper meaning within it. And if you pick up, for example, the Midrash Me'am Loez, or Midrash Rabbah, or the Gemara, and several other things that goes into the deeper meaning, you'll see how we arrive at many, many critical laws from the laws of the Mishkan, where things that you think are not relevant are very, very much relevant to your day-to-day life. Very, very much relevant to your day-to-day life. Next question. Yeah. Huh? Okay, and somebody didn't ask. Go ahead.
I have a little question. You were speaking about tzedakah before.
Ken.
So
Shh, guys, respect.
what's the meaning of tzedakah begins at home?
Tzedakah begins at home.
Oh, yeah, I want to know.
So the important thing that a person needs to know is that he's not allowed to help the world outside of his house if the people in his home are suffering. What's people in his home? People in his immediate circle. His brother, his sister, his parents, his children. If there's, let's say for example, he's obligated to give tzedakah, he must help them first if they're in need, before he helps the stranger. If they're not in need, then obviously he has to help the stranger. Now, helping tzedakah doesn't mean paying for somebody's vacation. That's not tzedakah. Or buying them a honeymoon. That's not tzedakah. Or a new car. That's not tzedakah. Tzedakah means they're really in need. If it's paying for tuition, for yeshiva, or if it's giving them money for food, that's, if they're in need. That's helping them. But a lot of people mistake that, their tzedakah money with just things that they're obligated to do. Like, for example, a parent thinks that if he just gives his kids food and shelter, that's his tzedakah. No, that's just his obligation. He has kids, he has to feed them. But if someone has to give tzedakah money, they have to make sure that first, before they go into the outside world, whether it's yeshivot or kiruv organizations or whatever it is, my immediate circle, my daughter, my son, my grandson, like everybody else, are they okay? Are they going to survive without this? Or they need my help? They need my help. Now, if this person that's in my house, chas v'shalom, is a drug addict, he's a drug addict. Now, I know that if I give him $100, he's going to go put more up in his veins. It's a sin to give him the $100. Sin, not mitzvah, it's a sin. Why? You're killing him. Now, on the other hand, if this guy is learning Torah, and I know that without the $100 he's not going to be able to learn Torah, then of course it's a mitzvah to give him. So a person needs to use, their judgment on where's a mitzvah, where's not. But first to look in their immediate circle, and then looking beyond their circle. But also make sure that it's tzedakah and not just gifts. A lot of what people give people, their immediate circle is usually just gifts. It's not really necessary. Tzedakah is usually when it's necessary, like they don't have another option or something like that. Yeah.
And the whole 10% would go?
No, there's two different tzedakot. There is maaser and then there's tzedakah. Maaser is 10% of income. Whatever income you generate, 10% comes, and you can split that up to however way you want. So if, let's say, for example, somebody makes $1,000, they have to give $100, and they can split the $100 however way they want. They can split the $100 to 100 people, or to 2 people, or to 1 person. But that's from income. Tzedakah is separate from that. Tzedakah is above and beyond it, and it's not related to income. It's related to what you have. And the most you're allowed to give as far as tzedakah is 20% of what you have. You're not allowed to make yourself poor because of tzedakah, unless you're extremely rich. So if somebody, like say for example, has, if they have $100 million, they're allowed and they should give $99 million. Why? Because no one needs $100 million to live. So, but if somebody has, let's say, 100,000, for them to give 90,000 is not right. It's not allowed. Why? Because no one can live with 10,000 only. You're going to need more at some other point. So it depends on, but that's tzedakah money. Tzedakah money, usually the maximum is 20% under normal circumstances, unless somebody's really rich. But that's if you have. Maaser is if you have income. Maaser is if you're generating income. If you're not generating an income, then you're not obligated with maaser. But usually most people have some type of income, whether it's coming from work or it's coming from even tzedakah. Like for example, people donate to us, I give maaser also. So even though I'm myself living off of tzedakah, I also give tzedakah. Sometimes it's strange to me that I give more than people that give me, but it's
If a person is mentally ill,
He's
is
skinned.
not obligated to live by the Torah?
if he's considered a shoteh. If somebody is verified mentally ill, then yes. But most people just act like they're mentally ill. They're not really mentally ill. They're just lazy.
Like a schizophrenic.
Yes, if he's a schizophrenic, he's patur from the mitzvot. He doesn't know that the difference between right and wrong. Someone doesn't know the difference between right and wrong is patur, of course.
Who's acting and who's really ill.
We have doctors for that, Baruch Hashem. We have doctors for that.
Weren't there tzaddikim that gave more than 20%?
Excuse me?
Weren't there tzaddikim that gave more than 20% of the money?
Tzedakah, yes. Maaser usually is 10%, but it's highly recommended to give 20%. That's what it says, Maaser v'tit asher, that's the mitzvah. But Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says that if you give 20%, you're guaranteed to get rich. 20% of income. That's chamushit. But as far as tzedakah, you are only allowed to give up to 20% of your total net worth, not income. Total net worth as far as tzedakah. But unless you're extremely rich. If you're extremely rich, you can give a lot more than 20%.
Well, you're saying that
Maaser is from income, tzedakah is from net worth. They're two different banks.
So your tzedakah is
Okay. Maaser is income. Income meaning money that people pay you. You have a job, you don't have a job yet. You're only 16 or something. So one day you're going to have probably not going to have a job. Hopefully you're going to be an avrech the rest of your life. There's other Hashem. Say amen. So, B'ezrat Hashem, other people, they're going to fund you, being an avrech tzaddik, Talmid Chacham, they're going to make money. So let's say they make $10,000 a month. Somebody pays them $10,000 to do their job. Okay? Out of the $10,000, they have to give $1,000 maaser. That's income. They get $10,000. Somebody pays them, they have to give $1,000 income at least. But that's maaser. Tzedakah is from net worth, meaning it's money they already have. So let's say, regardless of how much money they make, whether it's $10,000 a month or $10, irrelevant, they have a certain amount of money in the bank. They have, let's say, $100,000 in the bank already, that they've already made in the past. Tzedakah comes from that money. It has nothing to do with maaser. Tzedakah is random. And a Jew is obligated to give at least a pruta every year, which is, I don't know, today's world maybe $2. But obviously they should give much more than $2 because, it's a deen on the person that doesn't give tzedakah. Yeah.
You said most of the people that are living right now.
Can somebody give me water, please? Huh?
From people from like King David, Shlomo Miller. What does it say? You mentioned
Repeat what I said.
people that are living right now, all the souls that are right now,
Okay.
came from the time where King David used to live in all that.
You mean reincarnation?
Yeah.
Okay, reincarnation, we have several proofs of it. From the Zohar Kadosh talks about reincarnation several times. For example, the reincarnation of Cain and Evil, the Zohar Kadosh says, we can put it right here, it's fine. Thanks. The Zohar Kadosh says that obviously Cain made a big mistake and murdered his brother, so he had to come back as a reincarnation. He reincarnated. His soul was split into two. The Zohar Kadosh says that one part of his soul went into the Egyptian that Moshe killed, and one part of the soul, thank you. One part of the soul went into the Egyptian that Moshe killed, which rectified the sin that he did as far as he committed murder, so he had to get murdered. and the other part of the soul went into the neshama of Yitro himself. Why? Because he killed Evel because he was jealous that Evel had 2 women. So he was, in essence, he had to rectify that neshama by, instead of taking a woman, he had to give a woman. So he gave Moshe his daughter. Now, who was Moshe? Moshe was the reincarnation of Evel. Moshe was the reincarnation of Evel. Now, Moshe was also the reincarnation of Noach. So it says it in multiple places. Now, one of the interesting things is that we see, how do they find these things out? What is it, just they decide? No, there's different lingo, different words, different secrets. So for example, I tell you one of the secrets that I remember learning about Job. Job is the reincarnation of Terach. Terach was the father of Avraham Avinu, who was an idol worshiper, and then he did Teshuva. Now how do they know that Terach reincarnated many generations later into Job? Because when Terach said something in the Torah, Job said the same 3 words. After Job got punished or tested by Hashem, his wife told him that he should leave his God, leave Hashem, and see what Hashem is doing to you anyway. So he used a certain word to insult her and yell at her and rebuke her. And the same words that he used, the same 3 words, which I don't remember off the top of my head which 3 words were, the same 3 words that he used were the same words that Terach said. So they said, oh, this is the same unique statement. That was one of the secrets of how they knew that he reincarnated as him.
How do we know now, though?
How do we know what we used to be? We don't. Nobody knows who their reincarnation was, unless they have a merit where some people remember. Some people rarely have a merit, they remember their previous tikkun. Some people are born into this world. Some people are born into this world, and they remember who they were in their previous life. If anyone is interested, which is actually very interesting, so I don't think anybody would say no, but remind me, and I'll post a few videos of different people that remember their previous life with proof. So, for example, there's I think one story I've told you guys in the past. Well, there was one young boy that was born with a beauty mark on his forehead, and he remembered that somebody murdered him. And there's another story of another boy that remembered that he actually reincarnated. He used to be his father's father. So when his father would change him as a baby, he says, "Oh, I'm in that picture." His father would look at the picture. He sees his own father. He goes, "Where?" He goes, "Yeah, him. That's me." So there's many stories like this. Many, I don't mean many like there's 5. Many, I mean like there's tens of thousands of stories, documented stories like this. There's people that are in that industry that have proven that reincarnation is very much a real thing. There's also a certain type of hypnosis. There's a certain type of hypnosis that a person can do. It's not recommended, but you can do it if you have nothing to do with your life and you've completed your tshuva and you're a tzaddik gamur. You can do it. It's a certain type of hypnosis where you can actually, only a few people know how to do this, but you can actually be brought, your neshama can be brought to the past. And you can tell, they can record you and they'll tell you, you'll tell yourself who you were. And there's been many people that have been recorded where the person, they say, go back 100 years. And the person goes back 100 years through the hypnosis, and he starts speaking a different language, which he doesn't speak today. So he's American, now he speaks Russian. You say, okay, go back another 100 years. Now the guy starts speaking French. Go back another 100 years. He starts speaking some language they never even heard of. And this has happened many times.
But you're not allowed to do that.
I didn't say you're allowed. I said you can. You can do a lot of sins if you'd like. But in general, only thing you should be focused on is doing tshuva. But you're asking me questions, I'm going to give you answers. I'm not saying we're allowed now. This is not halacha. I'm talking about what you should do.
So to get something straight, a schizophrenic Jew doesn't have to do Shabbat?
A schizophrenic Jew does not know what Shabbat is. A schizophrenic Jew is schizophrenic.
Yeah, but he could still be intelligent. I mean, to a certain extent.
He's schizophrenic.
Yeah.
He doesn't know the difference between right and wrong.
There is something to be clarified within that question.
Yeah.
If the schizophrenic person is functional and on medication.
Oh, if he's functional, he's fine. If he's functional, he's fine. If he's crazy, then he's not fine. I don't understand what the question. If the person is fine, then he's obviously obligated. If he's not fine, then he's not obligated. It's like saying that there's a person obligated to go to Beit Knesset if he can't walk, and he has no way to get there, and he has no legs, and he has no arms, and there's no one to bring him. Is he obligated to go to Beit Knesset? No, he can't get there. He's anus. But if he has legs, and he has arms, and he has a way to get there, then he's obviously obligated to go. If he's anus, he's not obligated. If he's not anus, then he's not. He is obligated. That's it. The condition is irrelevant. There's only one type of woman. Only one. There's one type of woman that's obligated from the Torah to cover her hair. Only one type of woman. There are other women that are not obligated to cover their hair. If a woman is not married, most poskim say she's not obligated to cover her hair if she's not married. Rambam says she is obligated to cover her hair even if she's not married. But most poskim, the halacha is she's not obligated to cover her hair with a mitpachat, with a scarf or a hat if she's not married. But there is one type of woman that's obligated to cover her hair. What's the condition? It has to be two things. One, she has to be married. Two, she has to have a head. If she has a head, she has to cover the head. If she doesn't have to have, she doesn't have a head, she doesn't have to cover the head. Oh, if she's dead, then she doesn't have to cover her head. If she's dead, she doesn't have to cover her head. No one has to cover their head in a grave. But if she's alive and she's married, she must cover her head if she's married. Must cover her head, according to all poskim. And the vast majority of them say she must cover her head with a scarf or with a hat. And there is a website called Rapunzel, WRAPUZEL.com, that a woman can go to and learn how to cover their hair with a mitpachat in a very nice way. That makes it very attractive and very nice and very pretty and so on and so forth. Wrapping your head with a mitpachat does not mean ugly. It just means modest. That's all it means. Next. Question. Finished. Tzedakah. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll have a shiur tomorrow in Miami. It's not the same one from last week. It's a different place. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.